so many memories with video games on our shelves. I can remember back to a time to when I used to rent games, have weekends with friends. Everything from my childhood, I mostly remember whenever it comes to video games, collecting, playing, all that sort. And there's also recent memories that I've made too along the way, going for a complete PS1 collection, or hell, even getting any other game for my collection. So today I wanted to focus on the recent memories. I've talked about some of my memories from whenever I was a kid, renting Tomba 2 a lot, or, this, that, the other. But I want to focus on the recent ones that I've acquired over the last couple years, getting games for my collection. Some are hilarious as shit, and some of them are just downright warm-hearted. There's not a lot of Dreamcast stuff where I live, so naturally it's been a lot harder for me to acquire Dreamcast stuff whenever I go out to retro game hunting or anything like that, unless I look online, but I don't actively look too often for Dreamcast stuff. However, I have a good friend that actually had an extra copy of a game that I didn't have already. My buddy DMC. I've known DMC for almost 4 years. I recently just got to meet him finally in person whenever I was at Torg. Shout out to my buddy DMC! Such a great guy. It was fun hanging out. Actually, we got to go game hunting together too. What a highlight that was! Probably one of my favorite memories. See? Making memories with the video game community! There's so much that it has! Whenever it comes to doing this stuff, man, this stuff's going to stay with me forever. Anyway, getting back on track, I like to go on rants sometimes. You all know me. Anyway, whenever it comes to Dreamcast, he reached out to me and he said, hey, I've got an extra copy of Sonic Adventure. Do you want it? I'm like, what? So he actually sent this to me, and this was actually the first thing that he ever sent to me. And I was so happy to actually have this. Now, he didn't send it to me with the case. He actually just had a loose copy, and I was so grateful and so thankful that he actually sent this to me. So what I had to do, of course, I wanted to display it on the shelf with my other ones that I have. I went ahead and got a reproduction case for this, so that way it actually looks nice on the shelf. And yes, this is a reproduction case. Hey, like I said, there's nothing wrong with getting reproduction cases, especially for like Dreamcast or PS1, because they look great on the shelf, as you can see. I don't have that many, but in this video, you're going to see a couple, considering the fact of how I got some of the game. Hey! Whoa! Whoa! Ooh! I almost forgot. Excuse me! Man, you gotta love when it's trippy, right? Anyway, one more thing about DMC. So, I had not done very many trades with people in the retro gaming community because I don't know, it's online. The internet is a cesspool. You just don't know who you could trust and who you can't. And for him, of course, I 100% trusted him because he's a great guy. He's wholesome. He's, a really good friend of mine. And I converse with him, and I've known him for years, so I was a go with this. So, we finally did our very first trade for a copy of Diablo. I had acquired a loose copy of Diablo. I already had one complete in box. That's a whole other story about pickups on, where the hell I got that copy. That one technically is my second copy, the one I have CIB. The one that I got loose was technically my third. Anyway, I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, you want this? He's like, hey. So we actually did a trade for it. So there were many PS1 games that we traded for the actual, equal value of it. That's how we did it. So basically we went, I sent it to him, let him look it over because it was loose and it had like a little bit of scuffing on the front. Don't worry, it didn't affect any of the data. It was just some paint chipped off of it. So he was all good to go, green light set. So he actually sent me a few PS1 games that were equivalent to the Diablo value, and this is one of them they actually sent me, which was Road Trip. Now, I've not got to play this game yet. I will eventually, I will. Apparently it's kind of like Twisted Metal or something like that, I don't know. But it was in great shape. I was very happy to add this to my collection, and I'll never forget it. This one has a funny story. So, as many of y'all already know, I did a pickups video showing this and actually saying where it's from the Arkansas picker. Gotta do it right. Anyway, Southern twang, y'all. Y'all. Anyway, so reached out to him about this because I noticed that he had it and I really wanted it. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. So he had to get it. Well, apparently he lost it. I'm like, oh no! I'm like, it's okay, don't worry about it. Because I actually wanted to buy it from him because I saw that he had it in his flea market booth. Well, I think it took him a little bit. He finally found it. But you know what? He sent it to me and he was so kind as, a gift for my collection. So shout out to you, man. Thanks so much again for adding this to my collection. I'll never forget that. my most epic pickup of the year from a Goodwill, Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Oh man, what a story this one is. So let's get into it. So there's a Goodwill that I go to from time to time when I head out that way to Pikeville, Kentucky. And that Goodwill never has anything as far as video games. Every time I go in there, at least they don't. One day, I go in, they have these specialty little cases that are like this tall that are glass. And I'm looking in, I'm like, I see a tall stack of CDs, it looks like. I'm like, I'll check them out. They're probably just CDs, I'm thinking. I get closer and I notice, I'm like, wait a minute. There's a PS2 game on top of here. I don't remember which one it was. I don't remember that. So I got the guy to open the case because the stack was pretty big like this. So I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of games. Now, they were all marked at $9.99, even some of the cheaper end titles that were on PS1 and PS2. So I'm going through, I see Radiata Stories. I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I already got it. I already have it. I see Saga Episode 1, I already have it. Still a great deal for $10, but I don't need it, so I don't pick it up. It was Episode 3, you damn right I'm gonna pick that up for $10, but it wasn't. And I start going through, and I finally see one that I don't have. I picked up GTA 2 as well on PS1, because, for $10 loose, that's not a bad deal, and it was in great shape, and it was one of the, ones I didn't have for my PS1 collection. I'm still trying to find a damn case and manual for that. I'll get one eventually. If not, I'll go the reproduction route if I have to, because it looks nice on the shelf, and I don't want to keep it in my binders too long because I want to display it properly. Anyway, I finally get to this bad boy. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get this out, and I'm going to grab it because I didn't have it. I love the Budokai Tenkaichi series. Tenkaichi 2 is my favorite, but this one definitely still holds memories for me as well. So I picked it up, paid for it, and then ran like a bat out of hell. Basically, I'm like, nope, bye, woo! So I was definitely excited to pick this up for that. Now, going on to yes, I got the reproduction case, because let me tell you something. I'm not paying no $90 for no manual. I am not paying no $100 for no damn case. Oh, hell no! I ain't gonna do that shit. Anyway, I'm cool with a reproduction case. I got this for $10. I'm happy with this. Look at that. Yeah. And like I said, it works fine. I actually played it within the last couple months. It works great. Played it for a couple hours. Have no issues with it. Now, the thing that I want to talk about too is not just picking it up at the Goodwill. Whenever I showed this, it went crazy. Especially on Twitter. I'm talking, people were like, oh, you picked that up, it ain't gonna work. Oh, it's not gonna work. I bet that scratched to hell. And I had, literally, people were losing their minds because I got something for $10, that is not a very common thing to see for that. So they went all kinds of crazy with that. So that was a trip, seeing all those comments about that. Well, guess what? It does work, and it's fun to play. Luck isn't always on my side whenever it comes to retro hunting, thrifting, or even a Goodwill, but sometimes it is. Case in point, Silent Hill Shattered Memories for the Wii. Now, you're probably thinking, whoa, don't you already have that for the PS2? Yeah, I do. Now, I hadn't had this in my collection for a long time. This is actually the original way I played Shattered Memories was on the Wii. But whenever I saw it for PS2 at Retro Rick's Game Point last year, of course, I had to get it because it's on PlayStation 2, and I wanted all the Silent Hill games for PS2, so that was the last one that I needed, so I snagged it, and it was a great copy. And I played through it, and it's still about the same. But anyway, so funny that I mentioned that, though. I buy that for what it's worth. Still, like I said, a great deal. It's not a very common one to see, especially for PS2. You see it more for the Wii than you do PS2. It was actually at his store as well on the Wii, I believe, also. But like I said, I wanted it for PS2, so I bought it. So a couple months go down the line, and I go into a thrift store, around. Now, it's not here anymore, sadly. A couple months after I got this, they closed. I guess they weren't doing enough business. That's how it goes around here. Like, Goodwill's pretty much the only thrifting place I have, because whenever a new thrift store comes in, it goes out. People don't really shop there. People prefer Goodwill, so whenever a new thrift store goes in, it doesn't really have a chance, to be honest. So I walk in, because I do occasionally go in there. Walk in, there's a shelf on the wall full of Wii games. I'm like, oh, let's see what they got. Well, guess what I see? This. I'm like, how much do you want for your Wii games? It's like $5 each. I'm like, sold! Yeah, I got, but of course, that's what was going in my mind, but I'm okay. Let me make sure it's in there. So I look, I'm like, it's complete a box. There it So, of course, I said, yes, I'll take it. It's in great shape, too. So, for $5, I was able to get Shattered Memories for the Wii. And holy shit, I can't believe the luck, though, with that. Because I go from getting the one on PS2 for $350 to only paying $5 for the Wii one. We all wait for those mega deals, those jackpots. There's, holy shit, I struck gold moments. Well, let me tell you, this happened to me last year whenever I got the binder. I actually did a short on the binder, I think, showcasing the games that were in that. Now, a lot of the games I did not keep because I didn't need them. They were doubles for me. Some I still have in my collection. And the other ones that I did not need went to friends of mine that were interested in the games. Like Resident Evil 3, I already got a copy of it. I didn't need a copy of it. Resident Evil Survivor, I already had a copy of it. It went to a buddy of mine. So, of course, I paid it forward to them because I didn't want to hold on to doubles of those. There is one game, though, that I did hold on to that is a technical triple for me because it's my favorite game of all time. And there's nothing wrong with having multiple copies, at least within reason. 3 copies, I think it's within reason, of a game that you really love, just in case, because you never know when the disc is going to screw up. And I have to have multiple discs for my favorite game of all time. Y'all know what that is. We'll get to that. Anyway, so the ones that I did actually want to highlight here, Xenogears. Now, let me tell you something. I used to own this game. It's a great game, by the way. Trust me, play it, you'll find out. Anyway, I used to own this, and an ex of mine, and I've told this story before, but I'll just highlight it here. He pawned off most of my collection, and this was one of the games. Now, I've gotten a lot of my collection back over the years, luckily, but prices have went up, and as you know, Xenogears is not a cheap title anymore, so I was very, very thankful that this was in there. And, of course, Legendary Dragoon is the one I'm talking about. This is a reproduction case. All these that I'm going to hold up are reproduction cases because, you know, they were loose in the binder. And as I mentioned many times, maybe 99% of the time, whenever you look for an actual case and manual for a game, it's already going to have the game in it. So it's just cheaper to get a reproduction case in the end, especially for a 4-disc game like this. So this is my reproduction copy of that. And they were all in great shape too. So I was very happy to get these games. And then of course this one. Now I've never played this one before. It's pretty trippy. It's something with monsters and things like that. Everyone's been mentioning that I need to check this out. But the only problem with this one, now, this one, it does appear in great shape, but it does have a little bit of scratching on it, apparently enough to cause an issue with it. So this is one that I forgot to take to get resurfaced so that way I could play it. I'll get to it. Running gag in my community about this game because of what went down, all the shenanigans that happened before I finally got the copy of it. So let's get into it. So a friend of mine actually ordered me a game. And of course, guess where it's coming from? eBay! Or as I like to call, the Pirates of the Bay, because you never know what the hell you're going to deal with that a cesspool that is eBay. Literally. So she orders it for me. And of course, I get a package in the mail. I'm like, oh, this must be the game. It wasn't the game. It was a smaller version of the game. It was this little keychain of Driver 2. So basically, instead of getting the game, we got this. But we found it funny as hell. So ended up getting refunded for that. And she was able to actually find a copy of Driver 2 and send it to me herself personally. So I was very thankful to have that. So that's what went down with that. It's so crazy how, you know, the listing was basically the copy of the game, but we ended up getting this, which is still funny. I love how I have this. And definitely every time I look at it, I laugh my ass off because of what we went through with that bullshit with eBay. It was crazy. Like I said, be very weary about the bay. Anyway, so that's not all. So whenever I think I made a video about whenever this happened, or I've talked about it, a buddy of mine, lost in the 80s and 90s, Will, he actually, I didn't know he was doing this. Apparently he saw what was going on. So guess what he did? He went and surprised me with another copy of Driver 2. I'm like, we already got one. He's like, oh, it's okay. So it's cool. So he actually ended up getting me a copy of Driver 2. So now I have 2 copies of Driver 2 because of all that. I love that. You know, even though it was a shit show, it still ended up being funny as hell and a memorable moment for all of us involved. And like I said, it's a running gag about this game that people keep telling me that they're going to send me copies of Driver 2 to add to my collection. Don't send me copies of Driver 2. I don't need no more. I already got 2. I don't need another one. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that, me sharing the memories was fun for you to experience. I definitely will share more, of course, as time goes on, and as many as I experience. But as always, this is the PlayStation Girl signing out. Game on!